So tonight, can you all see the agenda I posted here up on the screen?
Yep.
Just want to have a quick discussion on 3445 Division Street because I believe there will be some neighbors on right now. And I apologize, got a very late notice that the developer and their lawyer was not going to represent the project tonight. But I did want to just have a quick round robin discussion about it. After that, David Ross is here attending the meeting. He would like to just give us a verbal update on the development of Chuck's Garage. And thirdly, just a minute or two update on the Rivage site. And then Penn Charter, I have a conflict of interest because I work for a company that's doing the master planning and the design there. So it's not, wouldn't be ethical for me to be part of any of those meetings, so I would need a substitute for Penn Charter discussions. Okay, so 3445 Division Street. I'm just going to bring up the aerial view. Let me start by saying this is being recorded for transparency, and it's kind of built into the Zoom meeting function. And it would be nice if everybody would just wait their turn to speak so that we can just conduct an orderly meeting. Okay, so this is the location. If you're familiar, this is a Division Street, comes up Conrad Street and is sandwiched between Bowman and Sunnyside, I believe, are the two street names up there. It is, believe it or not, the only lot on Division Street that can be developed as housing. So even though it's garages, it is a fully independent lot that is not currently associated with any other property. It's not a secondary lot. It is a totally self-sufficient lot. So that being said, they have a refusal because what they want to do is develop 3 properties right where you see the garage. So the orange dipper is located. They want to go up to the height that's allowable by the zoning code. They're refused because they want to build out to the property lines, basically the extent of the box you see here. And they want to build housing units that are smaller than the zoning code minimum. So I am going to go to the refusal here. Can you all read it? Okay. So the refusal here is, let's start from the top. Access structure required roof decks, require setback from extreme building line, 5 feet. They don't meet it. They're at 0 feet. Accessory parking space is, they have made a garage in the front of the building. That is prohibited unless access from a shared driveway or alley or rear street. So dimensional standard, minimum lot area 1440, proposed lot area 603. Okay. Dimensional standards, lower density residential district. They're proposing a rear yard depth of 0. Minimum rear yard is 7 feet. So that's a pretty hefty array of refusals there. And what they are, their argument is, in their absence, is that well, the surrounding homes are kind of this size and, and certainly wider than the surrounding homes. But, I suppose that in their opinion, they don't have a viable development unless they do a full build out. So what we need to do is, we have a month now to be able to look at this project and kind of ask questions between ourselves, which we can then forward to the lawyer and the developer, and try and move this kind of to a point where we can actually make this a better project. So I'm just going to go through these particular drawings here. This is the zoning page, which shows, if anyone hasn't seen these are the 3 units with the garages in front. Okay. Going up to what's basically going to be 38 plus 3, which is going to be, we'll take 41 foot 6 inches. Okay. This is the actual plot plan of Division Street. So the property line is here. This is the property line. And so the house fully occupies the footprint of the lot. So there is no exterior space except for this 36-foot square kind of light vent here. So I was curious as to how they're actually going to get up onto the roof. These are roof plans. So, yeah, hey, everybody, if you're not talking, please mute yourself. Okay, because I can't find the mute all button right now. It's kind of hidden under something. So I don't want to have to do that. So there is a roof deck, and I was kind of curious as to why there isn't a pilot house sticking up. And that's because you come out of a kind of submerged stair up onto the roof deck. So the pilot house is kind of submerged within the parapet line. It's so the plans speak for themselves. You basically have a garage and a den at the rear. You have a living room open to a kitchen on level 2, and family room, and basically 1 bedroom, or 1 bedroom and a small bedroom. So these are not large units by any stretch of the imagination. There's a pretty austere visual of the building. No opinions from me at this point. Just let the neighbors can speak to this, or anyone on the zoning committee. Then they have some shadowing studies, which I think you actually have to spend 10 minutes looking at this to kind of figure out who's going to get shadowed. But being a tall building, it's obviously going to be imposing some shadow on the neighbors. So back to the aerial view, just imagine a 41-foot tall rectangle that's going to be standing up in this location, surrounded by 2-story homes, immediately adjacent on Conrad, and going up Division Street itself. So, what we're looking, to ask people here is, without saying, no, you can't develop here, what would you like to see there as a neighbor? Because they are entitled to build. So kind of reasonable suggestions as to, what can be negotiated. Bear in mind that they could put one house there that meets the zoning footprint, and it can be 38 feet tall. So, that is that's the scheme in which they would not even have to come to us to get for a review, because that would conform to the zoning code.
Mike would like to share an opinion.
Sure. Could you, another ground rule, if you could just say who you are and where you live in relationship to this project.
My name is Mike White. I live at 3468 Division Street, which is that beige house directly across the street from 3445.
Okay.
I own 3468 and 3470, which is the lot next to it. I have a couple of concerns. My main concern, of course, is the fact that this house is going to shade me out. It's going to shade out the front of my house. It's, that's a huge concern for me. I would like to get sun into the front of my house. I mean, the only obvious suggestion I have to that is, beg you to reconsider not building it 38 feet tall. Maybe consider the fact that other people live on this block and be courteous about it. The other concern that I have is people already are speeding up and down this street, this bumpy dead end street. Cars get hit all the time. My next door neighbor Farhan's car got hit the other night, and the guy ran. There's already too much. Improve the street. If you want to build on the street, then improve the street. Improve the street surface. Put speed bumps on it. Something, some kind of parking. Any suggestions? People are parking in front of my house. My sidewalk's broken in front of my house. The grates that cover my sewer are broken in front of my house. This is just gonna exacerbate that problem.
Can we please, Mike, I apologize for interrupting. Can we please reiterate to anybody who joined late that the developer and the legal are not on this call, and this is a information gathering call only? Also,
no, totally understood. But you are in contact with the developer. I'm talking through you to the developer here.
Right. So, I certainly think there's some advanced ideas that we can submit to the developer. I don't see anything wrong with that, and that we can, start to formulate something to them before they actually come before us in December. So, I think all discussion and all ideas and feedback is positive at this point. I think to your point, there's a lot of parking along Division Street there, and it's become a bit of a parking, I think I even see in this picture, there's a white car parked on the sidewalk there. So, I understand that. And, to your point about building lower, then, maybe that's something we can negotiate. You build lower, then maybe we, can let go on some of the setback requirements.
Hillary, how many stories is 38 feet?
It's a 3-story building.
3 stories. Okay.
Yeah. It's a 3-story building with a roof deck.
Would he need, would he encounter refusals in doing that?
He is not above the height limit. It's not part of the refusal.
So he legally could do 38 feet?
Yes, he can.
Is what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. And, that's an unfortunate aspect built into the zoning code.
Right. Well, I can see there are 3-story houses on the street already, not Mike across the street, but up the street.
Right. And, I understand the sensitivity of the neighbors when, if you can look at the cursor, this house here was built new and was extended back
Right.
all the way.
Right.
So the house on each side, several houses on each side are just looking at this terrible blank wall. And, there was no protection there in the zoning code for the neighbors. So, we have to see, what is there in the zoning code that we can improve the property here. What leverage do we have here?
You have a question from Farhan in the chat, and next from Paul.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Farhan.
This box I can see. No, that didn't seem to work. Sorry, I don't know how to get to the controls here. Oops.
Farhan, do you want to present your question live?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So, I'm going to echo what Mike said. My name is Farhan. I live on 3466 Division, which is directly across of the garages. I have more of a question rather than a statement. I mean, I have my opinion, but first I want to ask, to the gentleman, I'm sorry that I don't know your name, who is sort of moderating this. What is your role in this? And then the second part of that question is, are we appealing to the courtesy of this developer, or is there any sort of legal standing that we have or leverage, or what is really truly the tangible effect of this discussion tonight?
Yeah, so I don't know, Farhan, if that's your first name. My first name, Hillary Langer. I live on Indian Queen Lane. So when a project gets a zoning refusal, that means it needs to be reviewed by the community, the local community organization. The critical part of that review are the immediate neighbors to a development. So it's a mandatory part, and it's required that the community organization garners your input, because you are those directly affected by this development.
Yeah,
so
I see.
So what we have here, we're not trying to make this happen. We're not facilitating a developer. We're sure, we all want to see vacant lots developed, but we want to see them developed for the better. And we want to, for all proposals that come into our neighborhood, we
Sure.
want them to be better projects. And I think only the people who live here know how to do that.
So in that case, then I'll follow up with my my statement, which would be, that if a development there is inevitable, that it should at least consider things such as shading, which a building of that stature would surely eclipse my house. In addition to that, I would say that the architecture doesn't seem very continuous with the other buildings there. So in terms of size and nature of it, it seems a little bit, I think maybe a little bit tone deaf.
Yeah, I agree.
To the community sort of feel. But I mean, I know that my opinion cannot stop something like this, but I would like to just put on the record that whatever sunlight comes through my windows into the living room is something that you can't put a price on in this climate that we're in. And so, the last thing I want is something of this size towering over me. So, yeah. I mean, I think the developer should consider the community's feelings here. So
that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I want to retweet what Farhan just said.
Hillary?
I'm sorry?
There's a comment from Paul Hillary.
Okay, now is that a comment that I click on or?
No, not necessary. I believe he intends to make it.
Or maybe I could just speak.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah,
So, Paul Aaliyah, I'm on the zoning committee and I'm an architect as well. I find this particular presentation of this project to be one of the meanest and lacking in sensitivity that I've ever seen.
Wow.
In all of my years on this committee. There's a reason why there are setbacks. There's a reason why there are height limitations. And this particular project is, asking for dispensation from all of those. And I'm personally offended by the lack of sensitivity and the lack of design, just the lack of design, period. There was very little indication of materials. There was, if they wanted to go 38 feet, there could have been ways to do setbacks or some other convention. But this just seems to be a greedy little land grab.
Yep.
In my professional opinion. So, I'm done now.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, a greedy little land grab. Yes, that we saw in the 80s, but
right.
apparently they're back.
So again, I'm a little confused. The top of your screen, Hillary, says refusal. So that means there had been refusals issued already? There they are. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So here are the refusals, but nothing here is pertaining to height. It's relating to setbacks. It's relating to garage fronts. It's pertaining to lot areas for each house. And so you can see them all listed here.
But nothing here on height though, right?
No.
So
outside of that, he's got some pretty serious refusals.
So even the minimum lot size is ridiculous. I mean, trying to do 3 separate townhomes on that size parcel, if he were to do 2 with some side setbacks, with some rear setbacks, I think that would be much more reasonable. And I think the neighbors might even, consider it. But this is, I mean, how is he planning on dealing with trash or meters or access or any of those issues that everyone should be, every homeowner has to deal with?
Right. Well, certainly when someone does a zoning plan, you do not see anything relating to downspouts, gas meters, where the trash is going to go. And certainly you see on this is like, yeah, where are the gas meters? Where are all the meters going to go? Because in the new homes, they just stick right out front there on the sidewalk.
Well, even the renderings don't, I mean, they show a brick facade for the street front, but really material indications aren't even designated for any of the other 3 sides.
No, it just looks completely blank to me.
And they would have garages facing the street, right?
Which means curb cuts.
Curb cuts, right?
Yeah.
Which in effect is what's there now. So it doesn't remove any parking, but that they need a variance for that, right?
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, and my feeling is that a garage fronted house is not your typical house in East Falls.
No, I think it's stone ugly.
We have front yards, we have gardens, we have porches,
Right.
we have garages with gas meters.
Right.
So,
People across the street don't have garages facing their neighbors, so why should these guys have garages facing them?
right.
This is Mike again. They'll also have to pull onto the sidewalk, our sidewalks, in order to pull into those garages because of the width of the street. And our sidewalks are already chewed up from people parking on them.
How wide is Division Street?
Like 10 feet.
Oh, huh. I drove down it the other day just to look at it, but it didn't feel that tight.
It's a tight street. Yeah.
It's very tight.
So I think one suggestion could be instead of 3 parcels, maybe they look at 2 with, you know, the understanding that there would be setbacks and there would be front and backyards.
Right.
A third floor setback would take care of the shading issue, right?
It would help.
Would help, yeah.
It would help, and yeah, okay. Is there any other neighbor who would like to make an opinion? Just start talking and let's hear you. No one? If possible, if you don't mind, you know, put yourself on video. You know, we're all neighbors and we can, you know, see who we all are. And we see each other in the street, we can say hi.
Hillary, while we're waiting for somebody to do that, I don't think you made it clear to Farhan. He asked a question about the process. You are chair of the East Falls Community Council Zoning Committee.
Yeah, this is true.
He was asking who you are, and,
Yeah.
and this is a process that the zoning code gives us a say in. It doesn't give us the right to make the final decision, but it gives us, we have to by code, if this developer is presented with a set of refusals, we have to tell the Zoning Board of Adjustment whether we support the developer, whether we oppose the developer, or whether we have no opinion. But we have to say one of those 3 things. Now,
Right.
given that, it doesn't mean that the Zoning Board of Adjustment has to follow what our recommendations are, unfortunately. We saw that with a project around the corner on Indian Queen Lane, at the bottom of Indian Queen Lane, with what used to be what I call the green monstrosity, because it was sheathed in green for so long.
Right.
Where the developer snookered us. The property was zoned commercial. He purchased it. He started building. It was pretty clear that he was putting residential on the ground floor in violation of the zoning. And after he got 2.5, 3 stories up and was well on his way to the 4th story, which he was getting only because it was commercial, he said, "Oh my goodness," he said to the zoning board, "I don't think I can rent that ground floor for commercial." Never mind that he designed it for residential anyway. And so he asked for a variance to allow the whole property to be residential. The zoning committee and the community council strongly opposed that. And we did actually get the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, to agree with us. And what did the developer do? He went to the Court of Common Pleas, I believe is his avenue of appeal, and he got the judge in the Court of Common Pleas to bang the gavel and say, "You're right. You should do what you want to do."
Right.
And we were totally, without any means to stop it.
So Bill, it is possible for us to, as a community, if we have the backing of the neighbors, to go up the chain with the developer too.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And that's the preferred route, I think.
That's going to take, legal representation and time and resources. And, I've done that. And so, sometimes what we're going to have to do is follow the developer in their appeal process if they don't like what the zoning board, if the zoning board agrees with us. So, we can certainly go up the chain to the developer if they're going to appeal and, they're going to stick to what they want to do and they don't back down. We can do that. Yeah, I did go down the line here and I saw all those folks who are on line here. So, if anyone's got any comments, anything they want to say about here, I I know some of you have lived very close to here, worked close to here for many, many years, and I'm sure you can't be too happy with it.
Hillary, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Felicity.
Do you know whether the developer and their counsel intend to present to us formally?
Yeah, they do on December 16th.
Great,
They
thank you.
were scheduled tonight, and they said they couldn't make it tonight at the last minute. So the next opportunity they have is December 16th. If it gets kind of delayed again, then obviously it's a tactic. But I'm not going to say that at this point because, you know, at this day and age with everyone with young kids, anything can happen. So, you know, I think we can excuse one cancellation here.
Of course.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask how many immediate neighbors are currently on the call? Hillary, can you tell how many?
Well, I know
Mike and Farhan.
4. You know, there's Linda, Mike, Farhan. I know Heather works very close by. Probably, so I'm going to say, I'm just going to guess at 5 or 6 right now.
Okay.
I think Linda Norris is on the call, and she's up the street. She's
Okay.
up Division Street.
I think it might be really helpful to suggest that the neighbors make a stronger showing at the next meeting so that, you know,
Yeah.
it can be noticed.
Yeah, I think because the meeting was canceled, Linda I did alert Linda, so probably some of her neighbors stood down.
Okay.
Linda's raising her hand, so Linda, you want to go ahead and speak?
Yes, can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good evening to everyone. Yes, I would just like to say for the record, you want to know how many neighbors. I was checking the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7 neighbors from Division Street were on.
Okay.
So I want that known for the record. And for the record, I would like to say, I hope that there is respect shown to the residents who live directly across the street concerning the shade. I hope that's taken into consideration. And, you know, I just hope we can have a peaceful solution to this.
Yeah.
So you're saying you want more input from the community at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think, you know, let's just keep talking and sharing. And, you know, I think Paul, you know, made some suggestions and, you know, anything that talks about bringing down the building height, shading. The zoning codes were meant to protect neighbors, okay? But clearly, you know, at 40 feet, you have very little protection here. So, you know, shading is definitely something in this situation I think that can be argued. So I think all thoughts and opinions that have been aired tonight are totally valuable and valid and need to go into the mix.
Would it be possible to form co-committees on what we as a neighborhood would like to see that is different than what we see here today to present that we might support? Paul, I wholeheartedly agree. This is the meanest thing I've ever seen. I feel like a 12-year-old drew it. Would it be worthwhile as a neighborhood to present something as an alternative that we might support a variance for so that we are received with an understanding as to our efforts?
Yeah, I think I think a neighbor working group is definitely something that I've experienced and seen before in presenting alternatives. And and I think it can become a kind of a fertile ground for some creative thinking. So yeah, I would suggest that that is something that we should do, that we can do.
And may I invoke Bill and or Todd again, no disrespect, Hillary, but historically we've seen our support of a variance as a community transfer into something that we didn't expect built. What tools do we have if we can come to something that we can support as a community, not a near neighbor, so seeking for our neighbors, not for myself. I got the Indian Queen Lane burn. What tools do we have to guarantee, given a support of a variance, that we actually see built what we expect and agree upon?
Well, I mean, if I may, since you mentioned my name, Felicity, that's part of the problem. We don't have guarantees. We enter into some of these discussions in good faith, and unless the developers have an equal amount of good faith, we can end up with a mess. And that's what we ended up with on the bottom of Indian Queen Lane, in spite of our best efforts. And you could point to some other examples. That was a fairly egregious one. And I certainly agree that, I've always felt, I chaired the zoning committee for 2 years. I was president for 5 years. More and more have come to the conclusion that what we have here is a situation where basically developers can do what they do because they can do it, because they can get away with it. The zoning code is not terribly protective of neighbors, certainly not at all times. And the city ought to do a better job. We need to be talking to Curtis Jones and other representatives, the at-large members of council, and say, why can't we have a zoning code that works for communities as much as it works for developers? That's what we really ought to be pointing to, I think. Because I can certainly understand the neighbors, of course. First of all, Division Street's already a mess as it is, with the parking and the cars on the sidewalk and everything. That has to be cleaned up too. This will only exacerbate the situation.
Yeah, Bill, if I may, speaking as a zoning attorney, all these ideas are really constructive, and getting the community's opinions and ideas in front of the zoning board is really important, and getting buy-in from the developer in agreement is a really strong choice. If you can, like this project, for example, on Division Street, great idea to actually be proactive and take this land grab, which, from a developer standpoint or a lawyer standpoint, let's push it out as far as we can. We can always give back a setback. We can always give back a third floor setback or lose a garage. But from a developer presenting it, they're always going to, in my experience, push as far out as they can, and always expect to give back to the community. If at that point we can, come up with ideas that, as a community, we don't like garages, we like front yards, just across the board. If there are things that we are going to either say we never will support because it's not good for our community, or we always want these things, and we have a list, or each project address, come up with a proactive response to the presentation, and then reach out to the developer and try and get an agreement. Historically been known as community benefit agreements, which sometimes have a varied history. But if you can get them to actually sign on and present something jointly to the zoning board, that's one way to get the zoning board. If the zoning board sees agreement, then they don't need to make a decision. It's already been made. Sometimes developers will have that discussion with you. Sometimes they won't. But then, and then historically, I don't know if anyone's gone down to the zoning board hearings to back up any letter and actually put a face to the to the committee?
We've
in
all
front
done
of them?
that, yeah.
Okay, so, but,
I
yeah,
mean, you're right. The best thing, the best of all worlds is if we can meet with the developer and get what the neighbors need from the developer, because then the control is in our joint hands. Once you start with the ZBA, it's out of your hands. And so we're far better off if we can meet with the developer and if he or she is dealing with us in good faith, we deal with them in good faith and see if we can come to something that is acceptable to everybody.
I don't recognize this developer. Have they done anything in East Falls before?
I don't know.
Is there any history?
Who is the developer?
Yeah.
Who?
Good question.
Yeah, let's just go to the refusal here. It says
Might only have the lawyer's name on it.
applicant name,
Adam Montalbano.
designer,
Montalbano.
Albano. I saw something,
That looks like an architect. Design
Yeah.
Shop Inc.
right.
So it doesn't tell you who the.
New construction, Blue Marsh, that's zoning. I thought I saw a name which I did not recognize. Not sure where that name is right now. But you know, I think we can make some headway between now and December 16th. So what we need to do is gather the comments and suggestions and the priorities and the observations that we talked about tonight. And we need to put that in a letter to the lawyer and the developer, and just let them know that, you know, this is what's are the concerns of the community right now, and the potential and not potential, the resistance you're going to get on your project, and that you will not get approved by the community if these concerns are not addressed. So, you know, that's a starting point before they come to our meeting in December. Because we don't want them to come really with this scheme in December and then start the negotiation process, because then
The sooner we start, the better.
Right.
The property is owned by something called NUBO, Nubo Group Inc. in
Right.
Westchester, Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's a developer or.
Deed not available. Interesting. Okay, so Nubo Group, if anyone wants to find out, do some legwork, find out anything about this this group. But if anyone would like to leave any additional comments, please email the zoning email address and leave suggestions, ideas, sketches. Felicity, to your point on gathering a working group of people, I would be looking for someone who would kind of want to lead that. Don't know if it's you, Linda, don't know if it's you, Felicity, but someone that can kind of pull together the immediate neighbor issues we've heard and kind of push that into, you know, a project that would be acceptable, that we can all talk about before we meet.
Yo, hold
I'm
on.
sorry.
Yo, I got a question about that. What is this subcommittee where we're like coming up with some kind of plans for this developer that fits the zoning variance they're looking for? Like, that doesn't sound very good to me.
No, I think the first step is to meet with the developer and share our concerns with the developer and see if he or she is amenable to addressing those concerns. The good news, by the way, is that the tax bills are paid for whatever that's worth.
Mhm.
So if he can't meet the needs of the community, and hi, I live on the block, I'm Linda's neighbor, then what happens? I mean, to me, I would say the concern would be for the closest neighbors who are, the shade is an issue. And I agree with Paul, it's also ugly. As far as the garages, we know that they haven't been Maniac went through that issue with builders coming in and building garages out front. And so, you know, downtown, they're kind of anti that, bringing that into communities where that's not the standard. So if they don't meet our needs, and I feel like if the immediate neighbors are not willing to make concessions, you know, he would still be beholden to single family, correct?
For the zoning code. Yeah. Michael, I heard your comment about pulling a group together. Might be unconventional, but I think that group is basically, I have seen groups pull together. It may or may not work, which is, I think, why I really want to see the input still coming in onto the email. And I would also suggest that there would be nothing out of the ordinary, that there is a meeting convened by this zoning group of a smaller group that is willing to work on this.
Okay.
You can count me in. Hello?
Yep, got you.
It's Linda. You can count me in.
Sure.
You have a lot of my neighbors on tonight. They spoke. So it seems a little bit to me, maybe they're willing, but then it seems they're opposing it too. So I want to do what's right for my neighbors and what the neighbors want.
Well, that's what we all want. That's what we all want.
No, the closest neighbors, like Mike and what's his name, Haran, that gentleman spoke directly across about the sunlight. They have very good points there. So we all got to meet and talk. And like I said, there were 7 neighbors on tonight. So what do you want? Oh, and don't forget, the laundromat uses that back drive there that they have an easement. Shoe parks back there. Nancy uses that as a driveway to get in and out. So all those residents on Conrad Street park their cars back there because they have an easement. So there's a lot. That's why I said I went to Division Street, Conrad, the nearest neighbors affected by this. And a lot of them really didn't even want to hear no discussion. They didn't want it. They thought it was too big. And so I just thought, let's talk, see what we can come up with. And hopefully we can come up with something. If not, then we just got to fight it.
Also, it's his objective to rent the units? I would assume because of their size, it's to rent them.
Yeah, we can't assume without actually speaking to them.
So we don't know. Okay.
Right. Okay. I would like to move on to the next portion of the agenda, which would
Wait a minute, excuse me. Before you move on, I would just like to make a motion that we're very clear. Do you want somebody from the block, the nearest neighbor, to head over this and get feedback from the nearest residents and the people affected by this big development going down there, is my question. And when we come back in December, we can have letters written, they can give or come in person and meet. Well, due to COVID, maybe we won't. But how are we going to handle this? Because there's a lot of, concern here with this big building, humongous thing going up. So from this point on, who do you want to be? Adrian, would you be willing to ever see it or not?
Well, wait. Let's let the chairman of the committee run the meeting, Linda.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. Hillary mentioned he would like to somebody to oversee it. And I
Right,
mentioned,
okay, but let him pursue that process.
Yeah, let me just say, right now this is kind of not a voting issue because we are all kind of in agreement that we want to see something better than is proposed. Well, what will need to happen is that me as chair of the zoning committee will be communicating back the concerns to the developer. But I only represent the residents here. I'm not representing myself. So I just want to remind you of that. And I will get sign off from the immediate neighbors. So please, immediate neighbors who provided input tonight, please email the zoning email on the community website. And then what I will do is before I write a response to Nubo and their lawyer, that there is something there that I want you all to agree to the language and and that all the points are being captured here.
How many residential buildings are on division as of right now? I kind of want to know what's the own to rent ratio right now. Meaning, like, if you're going to reach out, are you going to reach out to the owners as well if they are renting it, if they have a house that's out there being rented?
You know what, we can only post in Next Door East Falls on the zoning committee website, and Linda's very helpful in getting input, and I think the input we have tonight from people who live on Division Street.
But you only have 7 people. I mean, how many people actually live there?
Well, we don't actually know how many people because, but just looking at the street, I'd say there's about 15 homes there.
And there's no empty houses on the block.
I'm sorry?
There's no empty houses on the block.
Yeah, so I'm counting 15 homes in this picture, but they're
More or less,
really small.
We can also use the December issue of East Falls Now to solicit input, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be out the first week of December. So
yeah. Okay.
My suggestion would just to knock on those people's doors to let them know what's going on, maybe.
Yes, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And I think, what you need to do is just frame it. There's a development that's possible on this site. These are the issues we spoke about tonight. We're looking for ideas that can give us a better project. And what is that criteria? All right, any further comments? Okay. So I'm going to be opening up the meeting to David Ross, and anyone who's not interested in the remainder of the agenda can certainly step off, and look forward to working with neighbors we want to make sure that when developers come to East Falls that they're going to give us their very best. They're not just going to come in here and make a land and a money grab and run. So, that's where I'm coming from. And the neighbors are the folks who are going to make that happen. So I would like to hear from everyone that spoke up tonight.
all right, thank you. Good night and have a nice holiday. I'll be
Okay.
talking to you, Hillary.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
So David, we will have some remaining neighbors and the zoning group on here tonight. So if you'd like to speak to your project, go ahead and give us an update.
Yeah, thank you. My name is David Ross with Argo Property Group. We're the owners of 3515 Midvale and also 3568 to 74 Calumet. I wanted to hop on today just to give everyone an update of where we're at. I spoke at the last meeting in August about preliminary plans for ancillary parking on Calumet for the by right development that we're moving forward with on Midvale Avenue. So we're still moving forward with everything. I just wanted to kind of have an open dialogue about where we're at and kind of next steps with everything. So reached out to Hillary and he told me the meeting was happening tonight. So thanks for letting me hop in and join. Hillary, I did throw a couple slides together. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing. Let's see.
A new share. Someone tell me how to let Dave.
I see a screen share at the bottom of the screen. It's a green thing. It says screen share.
Yeah.
If you hit that, maybe.
You are screen sharing. My controls are at the top.
No, it says share screen. On my screen, it says share screen.
Yeah, let's see here.
Right. So Dave, are you?
I can, Hillary, I can send you a link real quick. And then you can open it.
Will I have the new share button? Right.
Mine's disabled. I'm sending you an email right now if you could open this link. And then I can walk through the 5 pages that I put together. But at a high level, 3515 Midvale, we're moving forward with plans for a CMX 2.5 development there. We already have our zoning. It's a 5-story building, 36 residential units, and we have 3 commercial spaces. We're anticipating putting shovels in the ground in January. We're still working through some environmental remediation work, and we're getting prepared with our demo permits. Let's see. It says I cannot share this document with you, Hillary, because, yeah. So anyways, we bought the pieces on Calumet, which include 3568, 3570, 3570 rear, 3572, and 3574. 3568 is a 2-story townhouse. The other 3 are vacant parcels that are currently being used as off-street parking informally. And then in the rear, there's a large piece that's over 7,500 square feet that's zoned the same way that Midvale is at CMX 2.5. So our plan has been to use this site as a parking lot for our development down on Midvale. And I get about 20 parking spots here. And then we would have a walkway that connects between the back of the site and the back of our building on Midvale with about a 30-foot length walking deck between the structures. So we're still working on our civil and our surveys, but I just wanted to make sure that discussion was had so that you guys knew what we were working on and wanted to field questions about this and just kind of, make sure that you guys know who I am and what's going on and try and stay open about everything.
So David, I think the feedback of the neighbors on Calumet Street is they didn't want the parking up there, and that they would rather see the properties you own there just developed as single-family homes.
Right.
And so we were, as a zoning group, we go along with the immediate neighbors. So your current scheme is to build townhomes up there and put limited parking on your project on Midvale?
So right now we have not drawn anything for anything other than the parking lot. And I just want to talk through, the opposition we may be facing here and what options we could look at before we waste a lot of time and money, and I don't want to have an adversarial relationship with you guys. I think we can have a nice project together. We did buy this land based on the cost savings of not doing 20 structured parking spaces. And the large CMX 2.5 piece in the rear also has a lot of value by itself. So, you know, our focus would be to do parking, but, you know, I want to have the discussion that if there's going to be a lot of resistance towards that, you know, what would be requested, or, you know, what are you guys looking for?
Well, I think we have to go along and support the neighbors up there, and that any parking is for the residents, the renters, is going to have to be down on Midvale. You know, sure, that raises the issue of people who are concerned about congestion on Midvale.
Right.
So how do you see, I mean, you're stuck between rock and a hard place. You have a steep slope in which you can't build, and you have a kind of a narrow and not actually a very wide lot, but you are by right allowed to build, you know, a fairly high number of apartments. So, you know, kind of given those pretty restrictive situations, taking away, you know, a parking lot on Calumet, what do you see as an alternative here?
There is a large CMX 2.5 piece that's a component of this, and we did pay a high dollar for this land. We can do a 20 unit by right apartment building in the back of the site.
You mean on Calumet?
On Calumet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I also wanted to come and talk about that, because that's kind of the challenge we're running into is, you know, we can do that. And then how many future projects am I going to have in East Falls and Curtis's district, you know, if that's the relationship we have. So
have you spent any time meeting with the neighbors since we last, I think, met by Zoom, I think it was?
Yeah, I spoke with Ralph a few times, and he's been in touch with some of the people on the block. We're getting out there next week to walk around. Yes.
So could we just backtrack a little bit? So you're allowed to build 20 units on Calumet, and there would be parking underneath that apartment building?
It's not required. That's one of the interesting things about CMX 2.5. You know, I think the challenge is, like, CMX 2.5 is a very valuable zoning throughout Philadelphia. It doesn't require parking. You get a lot of residential density. It's very flexible, and that's part of the appeal of this land. So,
except that this is a property where we do have a severe parking problem, and we don't need any more density. I mean, to me,
right.
I don't live on this block, so I'd be interested to hear if there are any other folks on the call here who do.
And, yeah, Emily.
Apartment units on Calumet seems pretty extreme to me.
Right,
And
Emily.
another
Bill,
example.
If I might say something for a moment, I'm speaking not in my capacity as president of community council, but as a resident of Stanton Street, who I frequently have to park on Midvale because, you know, where I live on Stanton, I park on Stanton, on Midvale, and on Calumet. And Midvale parking has become extremely problematic, primarily since the St. Bridget's Church, what was the school, became apartments. And so I know that the zoning permits you to do things that I would say that for current homeowners and residents in the area is troubling. And I also think it will be challenging for whomever would want to live in what you would build, because people don't live in this area of the city without cars. Although it's a walkable neighborhood and there's plenty of train transportation to downtown. You know, people, they want their cars to go to the grocery store, which we don't have, to do the things you want to do. And parking matters, and it's very tight in that area. So,
Yep.
you know, I think look at the character of the community and the neighborhood. Look at what exists on Midvale. I know what you may be permitted to do, but I think if you try and design and build something that is more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, you would have lots of support. I mean, people want to see development, but they want development that is not kind of putting at risk the quality of life for those who live here.
I agree, and that's why I was trying to come up with creative solutions to add parking here, and still am. You know, it is a bit of a trade-off. You take cars off the street that will be on Midvale and generally around the neighborhood. You put them on Calumet with one curb cut, you know, and you get, you know, 18 to 20, possibly 22 with some compact spaces. And, you know, that's as much as a win as we can do there. I'm still looking at the challenge of that site is it was a fueling station for decades. And every 5-gallon bucket of soil we take out of there is 3 or 4 times the amount of normal dirt. So, you know, Midvale used to be a stream. The water table is only a few feet below the ground. So there's a lot of challenging site aspects there. At the same time, we are excited about bringing in some small businesses with the smaller commercial spaces. We've already engaged one and had a couple conversations with others. And I think that location next to the coffee shop, next to the Rite Aid, is appealing for small businesses. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know I'm still kind of between a rock and a hard place with these
David,
guys.
I think your best bet is to meet with the neighbors up on Conrad Street and convince them that a parking lot for 18 cars isn't such a bad deal if that's the fact. I don't know that it is the fact, but
Bill, you meant Calumet.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Conrad.
Conrad. Yeah.
That's right.
I meant Calumet. Yes, I certainly meant Calumet. And actually, I do speak as a property owner within walking distance. I have a house up on Coulter Street, which is what Calumet turns into when you go down the hill in the other direction away from Ridge. And so, that property is pretty close to your site there.
Yep.
I think that my own personal view is that if you try to put 22 apartments on that property, the entire community will fight it, and it might not work. It's another situation where a developer can do what he or she wants to do.
Well, Bill, I'm not proposing that. I'm telling you what the zoning allows. And
I know.
I don't want to have a green monster here where I turn into that guy.
Right. Well, no, I'm not accusing you of being the owner of the green monster. Believe me, that would be horrible. That would be a slander. Okay.
So this site, we're dealing with 13,000 square feet.
Right.
We can do parking. There will be all things considered when you do development of that size with stormwater runoff management.
And we have a couple people. I think I saw a couple people from the near neighbors here. I don't know all the names, but I did see.
Yeah, Bill, I'm on. It's Ralph.
Hey, Ralph.
I saw Ralph's name, right? And I don't know who else. But to me, that seems to make the most sense as a way to go. Because nobody wants to see a parking lot across the street from their house. But if it's landscaped nicely and right now it's not a thing of beauty. It's nothing to write home about. And the idea of the walkway across, that's a pretty intriguing idea. I've always thought that from the beginning. But
the idea is that it's hidden and tucked away.
I know that. Yeah. And I'm not a traffic expert, so I don't know whether, what is it, you're saying it would be 20 cars, 22 spaces?
I think 22 would be the maximum.
Let's call it 22 for the sake of discussion. I'm not sure, and I just say I don't know this. I don't know how much of a burden traffic-wise that would put on that part of Calumet Street. I would have to be convinced that it's going to put a serious burden on, but I could be wrong.
Well, hey, it's Ralph Spiegel. I live down 3 houses down from the property that David's talking about, and I will say that David did reach out to me proactively in good faith. So he and I will probably get together in the next week or so, just to walk the property, walk the local houses as well. You know, Calumet is two-way, but it really only fits one with cars parked on both sides. There is somebody has to pull over if 2 cars encounter each other. So that's my biggest concern is the traffic considerations. Additional cars on the street is never a good thing. We are pretty impacted already. This block of Calumet, it does not have zoned parking. You don't need a permit, but I know there has been some requests to the councilman's office to make this street, this block zoned parking. So, I mean, that might help some, but it's still not wide enough for 2 cars to go side to side, oncoming side to side. And,
It never will be.
Right.
Unless you were to ban parking, and that's not what I'm suggesting.
Right. As a near neighbor, I would like it developed into something that's going to enhance my property as well. I'm not convinced that a parking lot, even if landscaped nicely, would facilitate that.
Right.
And I have spoken with probably 8 to 10 near neighbors, and I haven't heard anybody say anything terribly positive about the idea of parking. Yeah, and as David said, those empty lots have been used informally for parking, but I don't think even when the previous owners were in residence that they ever allowed any more than 2 or 3 cars in there, and I think that was just family.
Yeah. So we haven't discussed, while we could do a by right apartment building there, like I said, I would be chased out of town. Currently, there's 4 parcels along Calumet. 3 of them are vacant. One's a townhome. I can't do 3 homes there. It would not make sense. If we were to look at something other than parking and other than an apartment building, I would have to see how many homes we could fit into this site. I don't have a plan for that, but it would not be 3 townhomes. It would, be 3 or 4 times that many.
David, I will say that I think you would find a lot more support from members of the community for townhomes than apartments. And, possibly if there's a way to just look at some alternative plans, that might be helpful.
Right.
I mean, even 3, 6, or 9, if it has to be more townhomes, I think might be more amenable to the community than introducing a large scale rental property.
Yeah, I'd agree. David, if you were to put more townhomes on to those lots up there, I'm assuming they would be below you'd be getting a refusal on footprint.
There'd be a handful of refusals. We would have to do parking off street. You'd have to have the garages. the back part of that site dips into steep slope. So I'd probably want to level some of that as long as, it makes sense cost-wise, because, I'm not going to put a 30-foot retaining wall up, but maybe a 5-foot retaining wall. And then...
is there room to put garages in the back, or is it too narrow?
I don't have a site plan. I'm just kicking around. Like, I know I have, 10,000 square feet to work with. I'd have to get with my architect and kick some things around.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes what you see is you see a driveway and people, just parking back underneath a deck that runs across the entire width of the back of the property. There's a way of getting the garages off the street and putting a kind of a front, traditional front on the buildings.
And I would probably seek height variances on those. Because if I'm trying to add garages and get off-street parking, that eats up your first floor. So
what's the length and width of the combined Calumet properties?
Each of them are 20 feet wide. So the 3 vacant ones are 60 feet wide. And I believe they're 80 feet deep. Let me pull the survey up. And then the piece in the back is...
Is that 80 feet up to where the ground starts to slope off?
It's closer to 110 before it starts to drop off. Okay. About half of that CMX 2.5 piece is on the steep slope. So
it actually looks like there's some possibilities there.
I haven't paid an architect to do anything. We haven't kicked that around. If there's a strong desire for that, I just kind of want to set the tone that there would be variances with that. And I don't know what they are yet. My preference is still to do a under the radar parking lot that is easy to do and I cannot show up again. But yeah, maybe I can come back next meeting. I don't know if you guys are meeting through December or January, but
yeah, we have the next meeting is December 16th, same third Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Yeah, we haven't given it a lot of thought because we paid a lot of land for that, and I'm concerned about how many homes I have to squeeze back there. So I'll have an honest conversation with everybody, and we'll keep moving forward. Look at the excitement around the room.
No, I mean, I can. It's just
David, with all respect, there's not a whole lot to be excited about. We don't want to. We're not sitting here saying we want to see you lose money.
No, it's not that. No,
I would have thought that before you bought the prop. Well, of course, you thought you had a good idea with the parking.
I thought it was
that's why
the most brilliant person in the world.
We thought it was a good idea too. That's why I'd say going back to Ralph and his neighbors and convincing them that this makes more sense than construction. I think that's the best route to go.
Right. All right. Well, I did.
I hope it works.
Glad I have my email and stuff, but I do want to make sure there's an open door there for people that have concerns. They can reach out to me. David at argopg.com.
ARGOPG.
Yep. .com. And I do want to say, like, if you guys know anyone that's looking to open a small business or is looking for commercial, that Midvale Properties has a few spaces that we're still looking to talk.
Have you been working with Development Corporation? Because they probably could steer you towards that.
I've been in touch with them. I had coffee with them before everything shut down and have kept in touch loosely with them.
Yeah, I know they don't have an executive director yet, but Heidi Greenwald is still the president. Last I checked.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me hop in. I wasn't on the agenda until today, so.
No, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for the update, David. I personally, I see promise with the Calumet lot, not necessarily for parking. But I think with a lot that size, that there are definitely some possibilities up there. But from just the weight of the evidence of the conversations with community, I just think we should just put the idea of parking up there on a back burner, and you can investigate your thoughts.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound to me like the zoning, refusals you're going to get are going to be too serious up there on that. You've got a good aspect out the back of those homes out over Midvale.
Well, you would get refusals on garages in the front, right? So maybe the plan could be use part of the space on the property to put parking spaces sideways on the property.
The rear is a very common thing. If you come up,
That doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of room in the rear. That'd be a great surprise, pleasant surprise if there was. But take some of the space and put parking on the side for the homes, and then you don't have to worry about garages. Not everybody has garages in East Falls.
Yeah, but if we're doing new construction townhomes, I'm going to try my damnedest to get garages in there so that people.
Well, put the garages on the side.
Right.
Garages don't have to be in the front. Again, I don't mean this to you personally, but yeah, doing it the quick, cheap, easy way makes more money. It's not good for the neighborhood.
Yep. There's enough site here. If we can look at some options, getting them into the site and parking in the site somewhere.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
all right.
Great, thanks.
Sketches is, pictures worth 1,000 words, and maybe you don't have to pay your architect, but how's your sketching?
I can do stuff that looks like Legos, so I can do something.
And back to your Midvale Avenue property, you'll be without, if you do townhomes up top, you don't have any parking for the people there.
Yep.
I think you're going to have such incredible turnover in those apartments, unless you can. I don't know who you plan on marketing them to.
We kind of sidebar. We did have our original plan there was to have 49 units, and then COVID hit us, and we modified all those floor plans to have like home offices or space inside the units, and actually expanded their footprints. So I'm trying to be cognizant of how people are working now.
But so who you're marketing them to? Then just young folks or students. How many cars do you think 36 units are going to create?
72 cars.
They could very easily.
72 cars.
It's funny,
I'm just basing this on what happened with the apartments across the street from me. There are 2 to 3 cars per unit in those apartments.
Yep.
1-bedrooms have couples living in them, and both of them have cars.
Right. Absolutely. Every developer most developers. A lot of cars. My people are going to take the train to work. They're not going to have cars. And I say to them,
they have a car. They leave it during the week.
Right.
Parked
What are they going
all
to
the
do when they want
time.
to go shopping or go to visit mom in Plymouth Meeting or go down the shore? They use their car. And 'cause I certainly hope that they take the train to work, but they're still going to have cars. So, I said this to you months and months and months ago, David. Go look at Midvale Avenue and see how many empty parking spaces you have there at any given time.
Yep.
It's not many.
And it's particularly problematic, actually, with the current situation, which likely will extend another year, but who knows how people will continue to. So a lot of people who in the past rode public, the few people who didn't have a car went out and got them. I know people who were couples with one car who bought second cars.
Right, Emily, absolutely. I know before the virus, I would go from where I am on Penn Street to my dentist, Dr. Kim, on Midvale, right below your property, David. And sometimes I wouldn't be able to find a parking space. Now, you could ask me, why didn't I walk down the street? If I budgeted my time better, I might have done that. But, parking is at a premium. You know, you bought the site.
Bill's outing the secret truth that we out here in East Falls get so used to our cars that we drive them around the neighborhood when we could just walk.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's tough. You got a tough situation there.
Okay, I'll let you guys move on. Thank you, Hillary.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Hillary, you know something about the revised site that we don't? Hillary? Hello?
Oh, you're muted, Hillary.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just getting a call from my grandbaby's grandma.
Oh, great.
My son-in-law's mother. So yeah, we're making arrangements. Yep. Thanks, David.
It's gone.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, I gave a very quick update to the community group on our meeting last week about on the Grasso development. There was some misunderstandings that in seeing the contractors for the water department work going on, that there was impending work at the Grasso, Calumet and Ridge project. Nothing is happening there. It's just a staging site for the bulldozers and the trucks. So they are actually finishing up. Everything is per the zoning drawings that are currently that you can see on the website or on Atlas. And they are moving forward with getting contract drawings to go out and get the permit for construction. And they hope to have the permit January and December into January and start construction February. And as Bill will tell you, there has been deadlines and promises made, and they've been, missed.
Yeah, we've heard that song before. Actually, the bulldozers and trucks are now gone from the property.
Oh, they finished their work, did they?
Well, I don't know if they finished, but they moved the bulldozers and trucks away. They're still working in the neighborhood, but I guess they don't need that equipment anymore. There's still big piles of gravel and dirt. But let's hope that this is it for real, because we certainly waited longer than we should have had to have waited on the revised site. And I sure hope it doesn't end up being a complete waste of time.
Well, let's keep our
It's been 5 years.
And then the last thing I had is, I work for Ewing Cole Architects, and we are the master planners for the Penn Charter project, which is seeing some new buildings that are going to be coming along. It's seen some movements of ball fields around the neighborhood, and the neighborhood up there is, they're knowledgeable, powerful, and, they have a positive impact on the work that happens up there. So obviously I can't participate in any of those discussions. So I'm looking for someone who can kind of share anything that's coming up that could be coming up with Penn Charter. I do not know anything that's coming up right now. But I just want to put that out there to the zoning group here online, that I would be looking for someone to mediate those meetings on my behalf. So, if someone would like to do that strongly, then just let me know, and it's yours.
Yeah, some other member of the zoning committee has to chair that issue.
Yeah, I guess, Hillary, if there's an appropriate member of zoning who might be more familiar with the issue, who wants to chair it, I think that'd be great. If there isn't, I will do it. I think that's part of my role to step in if you can't, so I can share that conversation.
Okay. I mean, the projects up there are kind of large and complicated, and you know, so that might be a big thing to take on, you know.
Well, and if it involves parking, you know I'll be against it. Sorry. I'll stay neutral.
Okay.
Okay, so Emily will chair that. You anticipate they're going to be coming to us with a request, Hillary, or?
Let's see if we have any other members of zoning that you think might be appropriate, who, you know, may be more informed about it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's someone up there who lives close by, you know, then, you know, that would be my first preference. But really anyone who is willing to step in and, you know, not add to their already, you know, large responsibilities. And, you know, Emily, I appreciate you putting yourself forward.
I'm going to say yes to things and then never respond to my email after that.
But I can certainly find out from my guys, you know, if there's anything coming down the pike on that. You know, but right now, nothing's come across my email.
Yeah, I guess all the construction that's going on up there with the athletic building, they didn't need any zoning. There were no variances.
Yeah, it's approved. I mean, there was a fair amount of neighborhood input, and that was incorporated into the design.
Right, but that's something that the school solicited without our help.
There were meetings with the zoning group. I remember going to a couple myself up at Penn Charter.
Well, yes, you're right. The zoning committee had meetings regarding the plans that the school had to create more parking up at the top of the campus, and the neighbors on Oak Road were very much opposed to that.
Yeah,
I thought they were a bunch of entitleistas, quite honestly. So we got the plan, and I haven't heard any more about it since then. But I don't remember any zoning committee activity involving the athletic facility, which is huge, which is being built. Which is
I do remember presentation by members of the design team and the principal.
I might have missed it.
And they did go over kind of the building materials, that, you know, all the rooftop equipment was going to be concealed down in that would not be visible from the street.
Right.
The height of some of the stacks that come off from, you know, utilities, and I believe either a letter of support.
The only issue that they had was the one of parking, because they were planning on, in part of the master plan, I thought they were taking the president's house down, and then they changed their plan.
Well, it wasn't the president's house, it was the Timmons house.
Timmons house.
Yes, that's right. They were going to take the Timmons house down. Now it's coming to me. They were going to take the Timmons house down and create more parking in that part of the campus, so as to get cars off of Coulter Street, which one would think is a great idea, but the two or three home property owners across the street on Oak Road raised vehement objections, and the school backed down. So the Timmons house stands. And they came to us and said, now it's coming back to me. They came to us and said, this property was given to us, and we have no use for it. It's too small. The rooms are too small. It's hot in the summer, cold in the winter. Otherwise, it's great. and we just don't have any practical use for it, so we want to tear it down. And my personal view was they own it, they can tear it down, but some people argued that it had historical significance. They carried the day for the time being, at least.
Okay. Does anyone else here on our group have any updates they want to make on any projects that I don't necessarily know anything about at this point? Something that's on the back burner?
On my back burner, Hillary is putting out the newspaper for December, and I think that between Division Street and the Chuck's Garage property and the hill at the top of it, if we could say something to the community that made sense, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be long, but
Sure.
What's
the deadline on that, Bill?
Well, we're the very beginning of next week. At this point, Monday of next week.
Okay.
Tuesday the latest. I think it's an opportunity. I mean, I think that our crying need here on all these zoning issues is to give the community an understanding of just what we can and can't do. And I don't say that because I'm trying to beg off from taking responsibility, but just a clear understanding of what the reality is. As I've illustrated with some examples, where if we could snap our fingers and get what we wanted, that'd be great. 3 attractive townhouses on Calumet Street on top the Chuck's Garage property. That would be wonderful, but show me a developer who's going to buy the property and do that. I think 36 units, and I like David, he's a nice guy, but 36 units on Midvale, I think that's terrible for the neighborhood. We don't need that kind of density.
Yeah, well, sometimes, the zoning.
You're muted, Emily. I'm sorry.
Not.
I felt that I was gesturing strong enough and I didn't have to speak. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, I took it that way. I'm sorry, Hillary, what's that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, just because there's zoning on a certain site does not mean that it's appropriate for the site.
Absolutely. You're right. That's an understatement. And I think that when we get some breathing time, we need to put a coalition together, and it's out there to be put together through the Crosstown Coalition, because a lot of the communities are having even worse problems than we are. Way worse problems with the same kind of zoning issues. So,
zoning needs to be changed on Midvale.
Zoning needs to be changed to reflect the reality of the year 2020 in East Falls and everywhere around the city.
Yes.
And stop providing opportunities for developers to figure out what's the best way to make the most dollars, and the hell with the community. Because that's what's going on. That's what's going on right now, and we haven't seen the worst of it in East Falls. It's much worse in other neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we need to figure out a way to get involved and get that done, because if not, we're going to be having these discussions till kingdom comes.
Well, I think with Emily as a liaison on EFCC. We do have a window to some of the other things that are, happening in the business district. And, because I think they were more of a participant in kind of rezoning some of the business potential sites on Midvale and Ridge. And then,
we
get to review the project. So,
I'll have to admit, and I want to be clear that I'm admitting this, we missed an opportunity. Over the past 5 years, when the city went through this process that they called Philadelphia 2035, where they went and looked at the zoning of every neighborhood, and they were more focused on the commercial situation. And we should have forced the city, the Planning Commission, to take a look at these very real problems that the residential and the mixture of residential and commercial zoning creates. You know, that there's no reason in the world why Goofball, who owned the Green Monstrosity, should have been able to get an extra floor. Talk about shading. Why he should be able to build 4 stories on that property just because he had commercial on the ground floor. We don't need commercial that desperately. That the neighborhoods have to be screwed over, and that's what's going on, in my opinion. And I'll admit, I was president of the community council then. We missed the opportunity to jump on that because we just weren't up to speed. And I feel badly about that, but it's done, and now we just have to figure out what to do to catch up.
Mhm. Sure.
Because talk about ugly. Walk down to the bottom of your street there, Hillary. You know, the bottom of Indian Queen Lane there. What he did to that part of the neighborhood there.
Yeah, and he still has not solved the issue of gas meters, trash, and access to even get inside those homes there.
Well, the building is right up to the sidewalk.
Right.
He busted up Doc Jones's and 4th Street Cookies patios and had to replace them. And
There's
then he's
two
got an extra floor because he lied to us.
Yeah, there's 2 nice little sinkholes in the driveway there too.
Yeah.
So the water's draining around his foundation and pulling some subsoils down with it.
Well, it's even better than I thought. Hillary's gone. Emily's gone to sleep here. Let's. All right.
Yeah.
Is the motion to adjourn in order?
Yeah, motion to adjourn. And thanks everybody for attending and giving us some great input on some of these projects here.
Take care, everybody. Best holiday wishes.
Bye.